Welcome to the True Crime Squad. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie.
How's it going?
Well, I'm also here with my kitten, Gigi, who was standing on the top of my sound wall above me and knocked something to the floor and startled the hell out of me. But other than that, I'm good. If I can get a hold of her, I will show her to you guys. I know I haven't shown the kittens off very much lately, and that's because they're big and fast, and they bite really hard. So, you know how they are when they get sort of adolescent.
Yeah.
And they're just on fire at all times and do not want held. That's where we're at right now. So, anyway.
It's who they are now. Yeah.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I am making the coolest freaking thing, and I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I'm inventing an idea. But
cool.
Scott printed me a giant dragon skull. It's like bigger than my head. It's big. And I'm coating it with thin sheets of clay and then doing some design work and stuff in the clay. And I'm also designing some pieces of glass that will be mounted like on his snout and up his forehead. So I've got glass coming in and out of the kiln that I'm, doing more things to, and then I'm putting clay on this thing. And anyway, it's going to be really cool. Or it's going to be a giant piece of garbage, but I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be super cool.
I'm going to bet it's going to be awesome, and it's just the first of many, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If this one turns out as well as I'm hoping, or even kind of as well as I'm hoping, then yeah, I'm going to keep making them. So, yeah, kind of exciting. I've got my creative bug is finally like returning. It's been a hot minute, so it's good. Yeah.
That's very cool. I love it. Well, we have a lot to get to today. Mm-hmm. We've got 3 cases for you, and there's a lot of video in all of it, so
yes,
I think...
Let's talk about Donna F. Adelson real quick.
Oh, yes. So Donna Adelson's attorney has claimed conflict of interest, thought there was a conflict of interest waiver signed, and there isn't.
This motherfucker. Because, of course, he was the same attorney as Charlie, her stupid son.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're just figuring this out now, or was this an intentional delay tactic?
Right.
Could
Jury
be.
Selection was supposed to start today. I'll bet the judge is ready to snap him in half at this point.
Oh, I'll bet. But now they've given him a 2-month delay.
Yeah.
So there will be no Donna Adelson trial right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh. I cannot imagine how pissed that judge must be.
Oh.
And the prosecution. The prosecution was like, bullshit, we're going to trial.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge was like, we can't.
Mm-hmm. But an incredible waste of time.
Yes. Yep. God. That could have been resolved a long damn time ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we know defense attorneys, that's one of the things they do, is they delay.
Yeah.
This may have been one way to do it.
Status conference in a month, and that's where it's at. So they won't be going to trial anytime soon.
No, damn it. I do want to say welcome to everyone in the chat. If you're here live, we appreciate that you're here. Ellie says, I made a live. Welcome, Ellie. We're glad you're here. And everyone else who made the live. If you're here after the fact, we love you too. We're glad you're here, whether you're on YouTube or you're on any other social media platform or social media platform or podcast platform or wherever you may be.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get totally started, I do want to remind you that tomorrow is the watch party.
Yes.
So those of you who sign up over at Buy Me a Coffee for our $2 a month membership, this is a replacement of our YouTube situation, will receive the link to attend the watch party. So I am so excited about this, you guys. And some of you may have seen this. I don't know. It's brand new. But we are going to watch the first episode of Into the Fire on Netflix. This is a brand new documentary. It is a hell of a story, and it is a super well done doc. There's only 2 episodes.
Okay.
It's a documentary that actually tells the entire story. Like, you're not left hanging at the end, like, but who did it? Or, no.
Yeah.
I love it. 2 episodes, all wrapped up. Excellent. So we're going to watch the first one together tomorrow night. So Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. And that'll be at 7:15 p.m. Mountain.
Yeah.
And so if you want to join on that, and you haven't already, go over to Buy Me a Coffee. Actually, just go to truecrimesquad.com. Click on our Buy Me a Coffee link. You'll see the option there to sign up for the watch party membership. Do that, and then you will receive the link for this event. And we'll be doing that tomorrow night. So I'm really excited. I'm super excited about this one. I will admit I've already watched it, but I tend to do that because I want to make sure it's good. And you're going to want to watch it. And you are.
Awesome.
Oh no, Irene says I have to stop watching true crime documentaries on Netflix. I keep watching the ones the weekend before the watch party. Honestly, this is worth watching more than once. It really is. This is such a good one. Really, really appreciate it. It's done so well. So we'll remind you again at the end of the show, and we'll remind you again tomorrow night. But that is coming up.
Nice.
And now, with that all said, Katie, you have some WTF news for us.
Oh, yeah. Well, friends, the sheriff in Volusia County, Florida, has had it. I mean, he has had it up to here and here and here. He's had it. He put out a press conference last week because they are getting an inordinate amount of school shooting threats. And he's like, we will investigate every single one of these. Don't you worry. And when I find these kids that are making these threats, I am going to arrest them. Like, we're not messing around. We're done with this shit. So I'm going to play you the press conference first because you got to see how fired up he is and what he says. And then what happened?
Captain Todd Smith with us, who is oversees school security for the sheriff's office and partners with the school district. You know, this is absolutely out of control, and it ends now. 54 and counting tips came into Fortify, Florida last night. Okay? That means investigators in the school district have been running around the clock to investigate these tips, which are all turning out to be false. So far, it's cost $21,000 to do these investigations. We have 2 in custody. We have an investigation looking at 1 other individual. So far this year, there have been 207 threats who have come in. We've arrested 7 people for written threats to kill. 1 student, if you remember, tried to bring a loaded firearm into a mainland football game. We've had 11 weapons on our campuses this year. So what we're going to start doing Monday is, since parents, you don't want to raise your kids, I'm going to start raising them. Every time we make an arrest, your kid's photo is going to be put out there. And if I could do it, I'm going to perp walk your kid so that everybody can see what your kid's up to. The second point of this is, if I can any way find out that a parent knew what was going on and wasn't doing anything, your is getting perp walked with them. The purpose of Fortify Florida is to send in tips that we're going to investigate because you believe something is going to happen. To keep sending in these tips over and over and over again and think it's a big joke and nothing's going to happen to it. Starting Monday, we're going to have a billboard. We're going to have a poster out. I'm going to show you every kid that's been arrested and where they go to school. And then from there on out, we're going to publicly shame them and their parents. So parents, do your job. Don't let Sheriff Chitwood raise your kids. This is absolutely ridiculous. Go talk to the families who have lost a loved one in a school shooting. These little knuckleheads think it's funny. Go talk to those parents and see how funny this is. It's not. We're going to come and get you, and we're going to put you out for public embarrassment. And I know of a set of parents right now that they're looking at $11,000 each because somebody's paying this bill. Todd, you want to jump in there?
Yes, so we're working around the clock, 24/7 to make sure that we investigate every single one of these tips. Obviously, we've had a lot of them. We're working very hard to ensure that every stone is looked under and we're not missing anything, and that everyone is safe and all of our kids are safe. Volusia County schools are very safe schools. We've got a lot of things in place to make our schools safe, between our fencing, our locked doors, our tip system, our content monitor. Everything that we do day in and day out is to keep our kids safe. But at the same time, we have to rely on the public to ensure that everybody is working towards the same mission. The curriculum is built so that kids get their education based on the number of hours that they're in school. So if we're shutting down our schools to try to protect the kids because some kids made a false tip, it's interrupting their ability to learn. And we need to make sure that all of our kids are getting the education that they need and that they're getting it in a nice, safe, and secure environment. And right now, the kids themselves are making the chaos. So we need the parents to help us to bring that back together so that the kids can get the education that they deserve. We have the best security in the entire country in Volusia County. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Tell them about the audit.
Yeah, so we've been through multiple audits, and every time we've come out great. We're going through the Auditor General's audit right now. We're doing very well with that. Everybody should feel very comfortable with the job that we're doing and all of the things that we have in place. But the one key that we need help with is the kids and the parents working together to ensure that they can get the education that they deserve.
You guys got anything?
He's all done.
He is, and I love it. This is a brilliant, brilliant way to get parents to pay the fuck attention.
You don't
to
want to
what
raise
their
your
kids are
kids?
doing.
That's it. I'm going to raise your kids.
You are not going to like it. I hope y'all got a little glimpse of Gigi there. I had her for a few minutes,
Yeah.
for a few seconds.
Yeah.
I'll try to get her again.
Yeah. So that's what happened Friday. So they've had it. I mean, school just started and they've had over 200 school shooting threats. And of course, they're not stupid. They're investigating all of them because they have to,
Right.
Thank God they are.
Yeah.
But fast forward to this week, to yesterday, and the sheriff made good. They arrested this child, whose face I'm not going to show, though the sheriff did.
Yeah, he said locally he's showing them.
He's only 11.
Oh, man.
He sent two threats to two different schools and was showing video and pictures to kids of all of the weapons that he claims to have. Here's the perp walk.
Good, good.
Here's the weapons.
Jesus Christ.
Uh,
How does this child have these weapons?
They're airsoft guns.
Oh, are they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I was like, how
They're
can an
airsoft
11-year-old?
guns and fake ammo, according to the sheriff. However, there is a whole bunch of swords and shit there that are not fake.
Mm-hmm.
But those were all of the weapons this kid had in his bedroom.
My God. Where are his parents? Why does that kid need that many airsoft guns?
Right.
Because
And-
an
and
airsoft
this-
gun can still do harm,
Mhm.
and it also can still create mayhem because you don't know when you're looking at one of those from a little ways away what you're looking at.
Exactly. So here's what Sheriff Chitwood said. As promised, we just arrested a Creekside Middle School student who made threats to commit a school shooting at Creekside or Silver Sands Middle School. He had a written list of names and targets. He says it was all a joke. Volusia County Sheriff's deputies recovered a bunch of airsoft rifles, pistols, and fake ammunition, along with knives, swords, and other weapons he was showing off to students in a video. For his actions, I'm not going to say his name, is charged with a felony, making a written threat of mass shooting. P.S. I can and will release the names and photos of juveniles who are committing these felonies, threatening our students, disrupting our schools, and consuming law enforcement's resources. You can expect video coming up next. And indeed it did. He is
Good.
all done and not messing around.
Good.
So hopefully this will just be a painful lesson for this child, and this it ends here. Hopefully his parents go, holy shit, we have a problem, and take
Right.
every single one of those weapons away from him and never
Yeah.
give them back,
No.
and do something to deal with what's going on with this kid.
And what's going wrong with your child when they think that making a target list and threatening a school shooting is a joke?
Oh, I'm sure
Not
he
cool.
gets expelled. Yeah, I'm sure he will.
Oh, he
Yeah.
will. Yeah.
But yeah, you got to seriously consider why an 11-year-old has that many weapons in the first place. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah,
So,
that is not okay.
yeah. But he's not messing around. He means it. So there you have it.
Wow.
No more screwing around in Volusia County because the sheriff is going to raise your kids and he's in the process of doing it.
I mean, I think that this is an excellent way to get people's attention.
Yep. Yep.
Nobody wants their job risked. Nobody wants their reputation risked like this. And if that's a risk, if that's a potential, they're going to pay attention.
Yeah.
If they hadn't been.
Yep.
It's sad to think that we have to appeal to the ego of the parent to get them to take notice. But when you've got kids up to this shit, there's a lot of people not paying attention. That's pretty obvious.
Yep. Yep. Very much so. Yep. So there you have it. That's what's up in Florida.
Wow.
I'm going to kick it back over to you for the main case.
Okay. So our main case today is the trial of Carly Gregg. Now, I'm not going to show you Carly's picture. Carly was 14 when this murder was committed, the shooting committed, and she's 15 now. And I have some real reservations about treating this case as she's being tried as an adult, but personally, I have real concerns. And you'll see why in a minute, why this is not so cut and dried. This is not an Ethan Crumbley situation in any way. So Carly is charged with the murder of her mother and the attempted murder of her stepfather. This happened earlier this year, which is, it's kind of amazing that it's already gone to trial as
Yeah.
recently as this murder is. Today was day 2. And so I'll get to what happened in court today, but first I wanted to play you some snippets of opening statements by the prosecution and by the defense to kind of give you an idea of what this case is about. So we'll start with the prosecution and just listen to what they think they have here.
We believe the testimony will show that she peeks her head around the kitchen to make sure that her mom hasn't come out of her bedroom. We believe the evidence will then show that she walked with that .357 Magnum behind her back, walked in to her own bedroom, and then fired 3 shots into her mother, killing her. We believe the testimony will then be that that very moment after she shot and killed her mother, she then hides that gun back out of the camera, walks back into that kitchen, sits down on a stool with a gun behind her, picks up her mother's cell phone, puts her mom's passcode into the phone. We believe the testimony will be that then she texts her stepdad and said something to the effect of, "When will you be home, honey?" Testimony will be that then she waited for him to respond. "I'll be a little bit longer." She sends him a thumbs up. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe the testimony will then be that after she puts the phone back down and walks out of sight with the camera, that between the next 45 minutes or so, that the defendant reaches out to or attempts to reach out to about 5 or 6 of her friends. Some were FaceTime, some were text messages. We believe the evidence will show that during this time, she was asking them all for help, trying to get them to come over to her house. She wouldn't tell them why. We believe that one of them's going to say he even offered to call 911, and she told him no. The evidence will also be that one of these friends did in fact come over to help Carly that day. She didn't know why. but she knew that her friend needed help, and she went to that home. We believe the evidence will show that when that friend arrived at Carly's house, that Carly walked to the front door, asked her, "Are you squeamish around dead bodies?" We believe the evidence will show that then she took that friend and showed her her dead mother laying on the floor. We believe the evidence will show that after that, she says, "I put 3 in my mom, and I got 3 more waiting for my stepdad when he gets home." We believe the evidence will show that then she tells this friend, "Hey, why don't you go wait outside in the backyard? My stepdad's about to be home." This friend will testify that she does go in the backyard and she hears gunshots. And the next thing she sees is Carly coming out of the back door. We believe the testimony will be that she fell down coming out of the back door, gets up and tells her to run. And these 2 individuals, this friend and Carly, jump over the fence and run separate directions. You'll hear testimony that there was a 911 call. You'll hear a frantic Heath Smiley telling the dispatcher, "Oh my God, she's killed her mother. She hit me in the neck, it grazed me. She tried to kill me too. She's run off." You'll hear from law enforcement when they arrived on the scene that Carly Gregg had fled the scene. You'll hear from law enforcement that when they arrived on the scene, Ashley Smiley was very much dead in the floor in Carly's bedroom, and that they found that Heath Smiley had been shot and hit in the shoulder, through and through. You will hear from law enforcement that sometime after the day of the event, they learned that there was cameras involved, that this home had surveillance video. You'll learn that one of those videos was turned over by the living victim, Heath Smiley, and it shows Carly Gregg and her friend jumping over the fence. And then you'll learn that there was another camera in the house on March the 19th, 2024. That camera was in the kitchen, and that's the camera that Carly was hiding the gun out of sight of. And you'll hear that that camera was not in the kitchen when law enforcement got there, and it was not in the kitchen where it should have been when Heath Smiley got there. It wasn't until sometime later that that camera was discovered.
Okay, so that's the prosecutor. What I left out just for time is that Carly's mom worked at her school. They rode together to school. While she was at school, a friend who knew Carly told Carly's mom that she had some vapes or some vape carts at home, some nicotine vapes. And so when they get home, they eventually find the camera. Carly had hidden it in the refrigerator. She had just grabbed it off the counter. It was probably a Ring or an Alexa, something, I don't know. And she stuck it in the fridge. You see them sort of have a conversation here and there. You don't see an argument, but you do see Carly's mother go into her room. She comes out with what appears to be 4 boxes of vapes, 4 vape boxes, and she takes them into her room. And she goes back into Carly's room, and that's when Carly comes out with the gun and shoots and kills her. Her stepdad comes home, and she did text stepdad from mom's phone to find out when he's coming home. And then she texts several of her friends saying, "I need you to come over here. I need help." She doesn't say, "I want you to come see my mom's dead body," or anything ghoulish. She's asking them all for help. "Someone please come here. I need help." So then one friend does come over. Mm-hmm. And that friend is waiting sort of out the back door. When stepdad comes in, he opens the door to the kitchen. He's only got the door open like 3 or 4 inches. And she shoots him, and it hits him in the shoulder. And she shot a couple of other times and didn't hit him. He grabs the gun from her and she books it out the back door. And the friend runs with her, and they have that on camera as well. They jump over a fence. Friend like takes off home, like because friend had no idea what they were getting into, and she disappears into the woods. And then there's a brief search with a helicopter, and she's found. Yes, I'm glad you all are commenting on the intensity of this prosecutor. She's really intense, really intent on making this story into one that says Carly is a dangerous, abusive child who was out for blood. Her intensity is concerning to me. I absolutely see it too. Now let's listen to the defense opener.
Who took action on March 19th to bring about the death of Ashley Smiley and the injuries to Heath Smiley. However, this is a why case. Why did it happen? Why did this exceptional child with no history of violence, who was loved by her friends, her teachers, her parents, who had a good home life, who loved her mother, why did she shoot her mom? Why did she shoot at her stepfather? The state would like you to believe the answer to those questions don't matter, but we know better than that. The answers to those questions is why we're here today, and it's what you're here to do. We believe the evidence will show that there were 3 victims on March 19th: Ashley Smiley, Heath Smiley, and Carly Smiley. And Carly Gregg, that they were all 3 victims. We believe the evidence will show that Carly had been suffering from a mental illness, that Carly was not aware on March 19th that she had a mental illness. We believe the evidence will show that Carly's parents, who lived with her, were not aware that Carly was suffering from mental illness. We believe the evidence will show that Carly's close friends, who saw her at school every day, were not aware that Carly was suffering from a mental illness, because it's hard to look at a person and understand that they have a mental illness. It's hard to look at a person and know that they have a mental illness. That's why it's often referred to as the invisible disease. A person can exhibit symptoms of a mental illness without people necessarily knowing that they have one, or other people necessarily knowing that's what another person has. While the events on March 19th were tragic, the events on March 19th were not intentional. The evidence will show, and the testimony will show, that Carly Gregg loved her mother, that Carly Gregg and her mother had a loving, close relationship. Carly Gregg's mom loved her. In fact, her life revolved around Carly, as parents' lives often do revolve around their children. Carly very much wanted to please her mother. Carly was an exceptional student, made a 30 on the ACT when she was 13 years old. She was the apple of her mother and her stepfather's eye. And you will understand by the conclusion of this hearing why Carly's stepfather is still supporting her and standing behind her. Because he knows on March 19th, there were 3 victims: Ashley, Heath, and Carly. The state will ask you to take your good judgment, to take your common sense, and to put it in a bucket, to put the lid on the bucket, and to toss the bucket out of this courtroom. We implore you not to do that, to retain your common sense, to retain your good judgment, and to make sure that you are listening to the evidence as it's presented, because It doesn't matter how many witnesses the state puts on, their story is filled with inconsistencies because they're not telling the whole story. The evidence will not show that Carly ever had any desire to hurt her mother. The evidence will not show that Carly ever had any desire to hurt any person. The evidence will not show that Carly invited people over to her house to view her mom's body. What it will show is that on March 19th, a hysterical Carly called her closest friends, begging them for help, begging them to help her. The evidence will show that Carly did not recognize Heath Smiley when he got home that day. You'll hear that from him himself. The evidence will show that Carly was so terrified when Heath Smiley got home on March 19th that even after Carly left the house, Heath walked around the house with the handgun in his hand looking for an intruder because he was convinced by Carly, by how she appeared, by how she acted, by what she did that day, by the child he had known for years that he was seeing on that day, that she was terrified, something horrible would happen, and that there must have been someone else in that house to cause that kind of terror in Carly. What the evidence will not show is that Carly had a drug problem. What the evidence will not show is that Carly and her mother had any argument on March 19th. What the evidence will not show is that Carly had any desire to hurt her stepfather. What the evidence will not show is that Ashley Smiley was angry when she left school that day, or that Ashley Smiley was upset with Carly when she left school that day, or that after they got home on March 19th, Ashley and Carly engaged in an argument. The evidence will not show that Ashley Smiley found anything in Carly's bedroom that would have caused an argument. The evidence will not show that Carly intended to hurt anyone. The evidence will not show that Carly has not grieved her mother's loss. The evidence will not show that law enforcement did their due diligence in investigating this matter. The evidence will not show that Carly was abusing or misusing prescription medication. The evidence will not show that Carly had a secret life, but rather was just a teenager who had a life that her parents didn't know everything about. That's called having a teenager and being a parent. The evidence will not show that Carly had ever tried to harm another person, had ever had a desire to hurt another person. The evidence will not show that Carly is a monster, that Carly was a difficult child, a troubled child, or a deranged child. The evidence will not show that Carly Gregg does not deserve you to return a verdict of not guilty. Now, the evidence will show that Carly had a family history of mental illness, and will show that Carly was concerned that something was wrong with her. She wrote journal entries about it. The evidence will show that Carly was afraid she had the same mental illness that her father had. Carly The evidence will show that Carly's mother had worried for years about Carly having the same mental illness that her father had. The evidence will show that Carly was very emotionally tied into her mother's emotions, and that Carly never wanted her mother to worry about her. The evidence will show that Carly was scared of how her mother would react to the knowledge that if Carly had the same mental illness that her father had. That doesn't sound like a child that doesn't love her mom. And that doesn't sound like a child who has any intention of hurting her mother. The state would like you to believe that it's normal for a child to go home from school one day with their mother, who they love, and shoot her, but nothing's wrong. It was just marijuana. Or because she was on social media and her mom didn't want her on social media. But again, we ask you to retain your common sense and to retain your good judgment, because we know that just doesn't make sense. And at the end of this trial, if the state's case still leaves you feeling like their version of events just doesn't make sense, then you must return a verdict of not guilty.
Wow.
Okay, so yeah, I agree with the double negatives. That whole thing got a little weird.
Yeah.
But the point is, Carly Gregg does not have a history of violence.
Yeah.
She does not have a history of acting out anything other than pretty normal teenager stuff. She was experiencing some anxiety and depression. Mm-hmm. Her parents put her in counseling. And the counselor recommended some medication. And so she was on an antidepressant for anxiety and depression. Her dad has schizophrenia, something like that. And the reason that gun was available is because her mother kept a .357 Magnum in her nightstand loaded because she was so afraid of Carly's dad.
Oh my God.
There were other guns in the house that were kept unloaded with the ammo locked up. But that gun was there for protection from Carly's dad. So there's a history of psychotic disorders in the family. Mm-hmm. What the prosecution wants us to believe is that Carly is just a cold-blooded killer who wanted to kill her mother.
Right.
The problem is they don't have any evidence to show that that's actually the case.
Right.
There weren't threats leading up. There weren't, concerns in the past. There wasn't acting out of, behaviors other than, she had some vape cartridges. That's pretty standard teenage shit these days.
Stuff, yeah.
She'd been in trouble a time or two at school, but everybody's teenagers do those kinds of things. Carly Gregg does not have the kind of lead up to this event that so many kids these days do.
Yeah.
Who shoot their families or shoot their school or whatever. You can go back and track it leading. It's coming looking at their past. That just isn't in Carly's past at all. The other issue is that when her stepdad, Heath Smiley, got home, when he saw her as she was firing on him, she was absolutely terrified. And he says he can tell by the look in her eye that she did not recognize him.
Wow.
She didn't know who he was. He is on Carly's side. He has daily contact with her. She is in solitary confinement in an adult jail.
Oh, my God.
And so he talks to her on the phone every day. He has video calls with her on weekends. They message back and forth through the system.
Yeah.
And he absolutely believes that Carly experienced a mental health emergency, a psychotic episode, and that at the time that this all occurred, she was seeing something that no one else was seeing.
Uh-huh.
A couple things about that. Kids who start to present something like schizophrenia will often get diagnosed with anxiety and depression first.
Right.
Not uncommon at all.
Sure.
Psych meds don't necessarily have the same impact on a schizophrenic brain as they do on a depressed brain.
Yeah.
And someone who has a propensity for psychosis and they smoke marijuana can be thrown into psychosis. That is one thing that, she was not diagnosed with anything, but there was this fear in the family that Carly might have the same illness or be developing the same illness as her father.
Right.
Mom was worried about it. She was worried about it. Everybody was worried about it.
Yeah.
She did test positive for marijuana when she was taken to the jail.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with marijuana. It's not like alcohol. You don't test somebody and go, oh yeah, they smoked, a certain number of hours ago or whatever. I mean, we don't know exactly when her last exposure to marijuana is, but if she was starting to develop psychosis, marijuana could kick it right over the top unknowingly.
Oh my goodness.
So this case is really interesting to me. It's concerning to me because the way that the prosecution is coloring Carly and her actions versus kind of what we have leading up to this, it doesn't track for me. Now, I haven't seen all of the evidence. I haven't watched the trial yet. I'm following it very closely. We're not going to stream it because I don't think that it's right to have Carly Gregg's face on video. I really don't. There was a huge fight with the defense trying to keep cameras out of the courtroom because of her age. They lost that, which I realize we're in that world now.
Yeah.
But Carly is being treated like she acted as an adult. And I think this case is a lot different than the kids who actually did act as adults.
Yeah.
There's no indication that Carly intended to harm anyone before she did. There's no indication that Carly attempted to really hide her crimes other than she stuck the camera in the fridge. What happened, somebody said that there's something about stepdad messing with footage. Stepdad, there was a camera in the garage. And he realized a couple of days after, because this was just, can you imagine
Chaos.
pandemonium and chaos that's happened to you? He realizes that there's footage from the garage camera. He pulls it off the camera himself and provides it to the police. The police were pretty suspicious of him at the beginning, and they did not. They implied that maybe he tampered with the footage. There's no evidence that he actually did. It's an implication, it's an accusation, but there's no proof that he did. When he found the camera in the fridge, which was several days after the shooting, he finds the camera in the fridge. He calls the police immediately, and it's the camera that was in the kitchen. And you don't know that, Jean. I mean, are you familiar with children and mental illness and psychosis at all? The camera in the kitchen is the camera that really told the story. And he provided that to the police. And I don't know what the footage, they say they know this, they know that, which tells me that they must have access to that footage. Some people have wondered if being in the fridge ruined it. It may not have, honestly. Keeping things cold in electronics is actually good versus hot. So I guess we'll see. Right. People with psychosis do have a heightened paranoia. She also may have, it's possible she was hallucinating.
Right.
Her stepfather.
putting it in the fridge is a weird choice.
It is. It's
does that?
panicky. It's So that must just be you, Rom. We're making sound. One of the big tells to me is her stepdad, because who knows this child better than her own mother would probably be her stepdad, because it's who she lives with. And he does not believe that there was intent around this at all. And he absolutely believes that she does have a mental illness and that she experienced some kind of an episode that day that led to this.
Interesting that when he came through
Yeah.
the door, he felt like she didn't recognize him.
He said the look in her eyes, she was terrified, and she was looking through him as though she had no idea who he was.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm sure there's more. I've kind of chosen not to read very much because I would like to just experience this trial. I'm always curious about insanity plea trials. So that's what they're using as her defense, as an insanity defense. There was a plea agreement made to her that was 40 years in prison. She's 15.
Yeah.
Her defense turned it down. And they think they have a better chance with the jury. Because she potentially could get 2 life sentences versus 40 years. Some people are like, you're crazy not to take 40, but they seem pretty confident that they think they're going to get her off. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
But I have a lot of concerns around this child was on psychotropic medication. There was marijuana in play. There's a history of mental illness.
Schizophrenia. Yeah.
There's the fear that she was developing it. She herself had expressed that. Her mother had expressed that. She was in counseling. There's a lot here to go. This is not the same as a kid who wrote in their diary for a year that they were going to murder somebody and then did.
Right.
It's a lot different. Right? And I agree, Ron, that it is insane to put a child on an adult trial.
Yeah.
I have real problems with it, and particularly in cases like this. There's no indication that Carly planned this. This happened spontaneously, and her attorney says this is not a who case. We know who commit the crime, but what we don't know is why. Right, Jennifer. When someone is suffering like that from psychosis, they have a look in their eyes. They definitely do. And they do look like they're not even the same person. I can attest to that personally. I've seen it many times. And she was having some symptoms. But was she having symptoms of psychosis? Did she smoke marijuana and that kicked her into a psychosis? Because it can certainly happen. There's a lot to this story. But I got to come back to stepdad. Carly murdered his wife and tried to kill him. And yet he is on her side.
Yeah.
And says that he doesn't believe for a minute that that is what really happened here.
Yeah.
In her head.
I think that says a lot.
It does.
A lot.
It really does. So I'm going to keep reporting on it for you. I'll keep coming back with more updates as the trial goes on. I really, really dislike the prosecutor and how intense she is. You'd think she was prosecuting an adult mass murderer as intense as she is.
Yeah. And the way she was leaning into the jury and pointing at them and...
Yeah.
Ick. Yeah.
Right, Grant, she could have been self-medicating with marijuana. That is absolutely true. And a lot of people with mental illness do that. And depending on what your mental illness is, marijuana can make things much worse. And particularly for somebody who had no idea.
Right.
Like my family member that struggles with schizophrenia knows from the psychiatrist, you can't ever have marijuana. It will put you in the hospital.
Yeah.
You will, the doctor actually said you will be in a hospital thinking you're Jesus Christ. That it's that level of psychosis that can be triggered.
Oh my goodness. Well, we saw it with a client of ours, a local client that was having psychosis and was using a lot of marijuana. And I mean, it completely destroyed her life. She lost her kids. She eventually hitchhiked to Las Vegas and was murdered in the tunnels. And
She was.
just from that point on, the stuff she would post on Facebook, and it was just a constant stream of the most upsetting, crazy stuff. Her family did everything they could to try to get her back together, to get her into the hospital, and she wasn't having it. And it literally cost her life. It cost her kids, their mom. It was unbelievable.
It was.
Yeah. It
And,
definitely
you know,
happens.
There's a thing called anhedonia. And anhedonia is the phenomenon of someone having a serious mental illness like schizophrenia, they do not know they are sick. They cannot tell the difference between their hallucinations and reality because all of that input is coming from their brain. So just like you and I are looking at each other through this screen today, she very easily could have been seeing things that were not there, but that were 100% real to her.
Yeah.
Right. There are also grandparents supporting Carly.
Yes.
All of the family says that this came out of the blue. Right. Yes. There is a history of experimenting with other drugs. Unfortunately, all of that experimentation started with her father. Her father uses all kinds of drugs, and on visitation with her would use drugs in front of her, and it was a known history that he had forced her to try various things as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we will. It's in trial now. This is day 2. So day 2 of trial. And
Yeah. Yeah, we'll keep
So-
following it. Yeah.
well, that's not what it means in mental health, Rom, here in the United States. Anhedonia means the inability to recognize mental illness within yourself. We will continue to cover it. We are not going to stream it because I agree with her attorney that this should not be streamed. But we will continue to cover it because this is important. And this is one of those cases where the headlines, sorry, Rom, but we're in the U.S. and we have different words, apparently. I don't know what you want. The coverage of this case is really concerning to me. The headlines that you see on Court TV and on other news sites are very concerning because they are all condemning Carly without any information about what was going on behind the scenes and what could have been going on that day. She's been evaluated. Okay, Rom, I'm not going to argue with you, so just let it go, man. What we know is that she's been evaluated. The judge found her competent to stand trial, but there will be, we will hear from doctors who have evaluated her. And that's important. That's what I want to hear is what do
Right.
they think about
what's
this?
gone on with her since?
Right.
What are they treating her for? What's happening now?
Right. What's going on there? And if they can tell us, I don't know. Because with HIPAA in the United States, it's just, we don't always get to know.
Right.
But anyway, this case
Sometimes
is a
you
really
do.
important one for us to
Yeah.
cover and to be aware of because there is so much more to this story. And not everything is just, this was a horrible kid who wanted her mother and her stepfather dead.
Right.
There's just no evidence of that at all.
And the support of the family says everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
So with that, I will be continuing to follow the trial and be giving you updates as we go. Somebody recently accused us of always hating defense attorneys and always going for the prosecution. It isn't true. This is
This
not
time
the
we're
only
hating the
case
prosecutor.
where we have disagreed. But that prosecutor is so out for blood. Her body language was like, holy shit, terrifying. It is a concern for me.
Yeah.
Right, Jennifer, you can suffer a break and then snap back to normal. It is, in fact, a real thing.
Yeah.
And it's possible that she's being medicated now too. We don't know.
Right.
And it's
Well,
possible
she probably
that
is.
she may have experienced an episode of psychosis triggered by marijuana or something else too. Those things are all possible. So I want to see what the doctors have to say in this particular case.
Yeah.
So we're going to be covering it as we go along.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Katie, with that, I'm going to kick the mic over to you for a crime news update.
Okay. Well, you've probably already heard the word, but this fool was finally arrested. This, of
I've
course,
been
is
wondering
Sean Combs. This
when
was a
this was going to
drawing,
come.
right? This was a drawing from the courtroom today by Christine Cornell. He was arrested yesterday. He was actually scheduled to be arrested today. And for whatever reason, that shifted yesterday and he was taken in yesterday. As you probably already know, there has been an ongoing investigation against Sean Combs, who is also known as Puffy or Diddy. We're going to stick with Sean. Because of a bunch of sex type allegations and financial allegations. He's had a slew of lawsuits coming at him alleging sexual abuse here in this last year. So this has been coming for a minute. There was a huge search of his property earlier this year, and so we've known this was, on the way. Well, it's finally here. So he was charged with racketeering, so he has a RICO charge, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. I have the indictment. It is 14 pages long. I'm going to link it here in case you want to read it. I'm not going to go all the way through it, but you can. The prosecution is saying that they have an immense amount of digital proof in this case.
Wow.
They he pled not guilty today, and they fought it out about bail. Essentially, the judge said, no. The judge said there's been significant violence and weapons around, also coercion of witnesses. Even gentle coercion can be effective. The type of behavior we're talking about happens behind closed doors. I thank your family members for coming, but I cannot release him. Yeah. He was trying to negotiate a $50 million bail. And the judge said no. So they'll be back in court tomorrow at 3:30 to renegotiate that and see if they can get the judge to give him any wiggle room. But as for now, the answer is no. He's going to stay put. A lot of the charges are tied to these freak-offs, is what he called them.
God, yeah.
They coerced sex acts that he orchestrated and recorded. He had 1,000 bottles of lube at his house. 1,000! Which isn't illegal,
hell?
but it's very weird.
Gross, man.
Yeah.
That is weird.
He-
Like, what the hell? And just what he's calling these. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is Epstein level horrifying.
It is. And yes, this has been going on for a long time, and I think that we're going to see some other big names come up in concert with this.
Good.
50 Cent
They're
was on Drew
involved.
Barrymore today, and he said, here I'm hanging out with Drew Barrymore, and I don't even have 1,000 bottles of lube at home. Apparently it's not the first time he's taken a shot at
Yeah.
at Sean Combs, but
There
at
have
any
been
rate-
quite a few other rappers since those initial. Yes, Cat Williams totally called
definitely
this last
called
year.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, there's been a lot of other rappers and entertainers that have been speaking up about this ever since those warrants were served,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Apparently
about
his
how
gross bullshit
this has been
behavior's
happening
going on.
forever.
Yep. A very long time. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did hire a lot of sex workers. He had all kinds of shit going down. His sons were at court today to be there with him. None of his daughters were. So that's where it
Oh, that's
sits.
telling.
I don't know if Jay-Z's been mentioned. I see some people throwing that one around, but I don't think as of yet that's true. But I can't say that for certain. I don't know. But
Tubbs is going to be listening to Andre 3000's flute album in peace while I read the doc, right? Good job.
good. Oh yeah. Well,
That might be more peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Then you'll need to go
it's bad.
take a quick bleach
This
shower.
This is Epstein level bad.
It is. It absolutely is. So expect it to get worse. We'll see what the judge does tomorrow, though they seem pretty convicted today that Combs isn't going anywhere. But
Yeah. Good. Because, I mean, he's got unlimited resources. He could go anywhere.
Right.
I mean, he asked for a $50 million bond, knowing damn well he could pay it. Holy shit.
With house arrest. That's
Yeah.
that's what his terms were. Yeah.
That is terrifying because, I mean,
Yeah.
he'd disappear in 5 seconds. Like,
I'm sure he could.
wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sure he's going to be telling on it. He's not going down by himself. No way in hell. Yeah.
I imagine. I imagine there's going to be a bunch of names go down with him if he's going down.
Yeah. Yeah.
He may not be quite as tight-lipped as Epstein was, although they ought to keep a very close eye on him in jail. They need to be protecting him because this could go the same way as Epstein. I wouldn't even be surprised.
I wouldn't either. Yeah. So the jail definitely has their work cut out for them. But I agree with the judge. He shouldn't be going anywhere. So we'll keep watching that one too. I'm sure we're going to have a lot to say about this as it continues to roll out. But
Yeah.
that's what we've got for today.
All right. Well, just a quick reminder that tomorrow night is the watch party at 7:15 Mountain. So if you're a part of our membership over on Buy Me a Coffee, or if you want to be, go to truecrimesquad.com, click on Buy Me a Coffee. You'll see how to do that there. We are going to watch the first episode of Into the Fire on Netflix. So remember how that works. You watch on your own device, but we have a live open that will just be chat. And we'll be discussing throughout. And you guys, if you have not seen this yet, and even if you have, this is a hell of a case. You're going to love this. It's such a well done documentary, and it's a hell of a story. Absolutely hell of a story.
Awesome. Love it.
And we'll be back, of course, tomorrow night for case updates at 6 prior to the watch party. And then we'll be done for the week. We won't be here on Thursday. We are doing a fall festival little show with all our crafty stuff that we love to make. And so we'll be out and then we'll be back next week. So tomorrow we've got lots.
Yes.
Also, if you were interested in our new podcast, it is called Tater Talk, TALK. I've had some people looking for Tater Tot and not finding it.
Oh.
It is right now only on Spotify, and it will be expanding out. We just barely got it going. But if you just go to podcasts, search Spotify, it's Tater Talk. And it's a blue and white graphic. It's 2 little potatoes with a microphone. If that helps you find it. Of course, ask us if you can't find it, but I know some people have had trouble, but some of them thought it was Tater Tot, but it's Tater Talk with a K. That should help you to find it. If that's what you're interested in. If not, that's fine.
Right.
We love you.
It's
We're
our
glad you're here.
political pod, so if you want to come join
It
us there,
is.
you can. If not, we totally can honor that. It's fine.
Either way, we appreciate you very much for being here. Thanks for joining us today. And as always, you know it, we are the True Crime Squad.
Take care.